Want to hear another secret law enforcement doesn't want you to know? It's called failure to identify, and it's not what you think. According to the Badge ID Act of 93, all law enforcement officers are required to disclose their badge ID number to anyone who asks, or they can be sent to prison. Now here's what they don't want you to know. If you were to ask an undercover cop if they were a cop, they can lie to you. That's not illegal. But they are not exempt from the Badge ID Act. So if you were to ask them for their badge ID number,
it's called MK Ultra.
Yeah, this nigga go, y'all.
This is what we've all been going through, and we are all just waking up from. So, you can't blame the parents because it's a science experiment. They're just trying to do what they had to do to get out of power to make sure your little ass is straight. But at the same time, now they don't look like themselves anymore. Now they're free to do whatever the fuck they want, and they have to see this out. Right? Yeah, that's what this is. And it's more like, you know, if you don't know where your is, you're smoking this. If you don't know what's happened with your wife and where she is, you're doing that. You're doing this. If you don't know how to identify these demons, the eye colors and all this shit, you know, if you don't know.
It's stunning to monitor the media's lack of interest in the whole Maui story.
Prayers up Maui, man.
30 years, I'm stunned. But I'm not surprised. The incident seems to be the story here, right? But the true story, the media knows it is not allowed to tell. Is it a coincidence that the Maui police chief is the same man who was in charge in Las Vegas during that massacre that killed 58 people? Is it a coincidence that the Maui property, owned by million and billionaires, wasn't touched by the flames while homes of the locals all burned?
What she fails to also mention is how the media hasn't even once interviewed a grieving parent.
Not
a
one
single parent
time.
looking for their children. Not a single
Nowhere.
child. Not a single interview with the schools.
Was it a
What's going
coincidence
on, y'all?
that the largest system of outdoor emergency sirens in the world never made a sound as the fire devoured Lahaina? Was it a coincidence that at the same time, very same time, all the water was turned off? Was it a coincidence that police were ordered to block off streets and to funnel all the cars trying to escape? Think about this coincidence. That governor also signed an emergency proclamation on July 17th, 3 weeks before the fire, about housing of all things. Is it a coincidence
Like,
that
they
the government
hip
put
to
up
it already.
around Lahaina, or that the FAA grounded all drones from flying over the affected areas? Is it a coincidence that since at least 2011 there have been plans to make Maui the first smart city run by 100% renewable energy? And that it must be a coincidence that the locals whose homes did not burn are now being evicted from their property. And of course, a total coincidence that all the fact checkers who are checking these facts, who say everything I just told you is just a coincidence, are also owned and run by BlackRock.
Oh, BlackRock. That shit marvelous.
Just in case y'all don't know, 2023 represents the year of the spiritual battle between good and evil. The numerology behind 2023 is 7. Now, Northern Drink Club's podcast talks about how his music was trending on a certain platform, and then he got a call from the Illuminati after questioning his music money production on SoundCloud. What y'all gotta understand is the music industry, the higher ups, the GOATs, if you want to call it that, are not nice. They will out you if there's a problem. If you're buzzing and they're not eating, you're not eating. If you try to start problems like what Tory Lanez did, you'll end up in jail. And if you don't believe me, watch this video and you'll see why Tory Lanez ended up in jail. Media will always paint a picture of you to falsely accuse you, to falsely imprison you. You've heard this story so many times.
We done seen it so many times.
I texted up to the boys and I said, well, if this month we did 48 million in spins and I played my record all those times, what do y'all owe me? And that was a different type of phone call. That was when I knew that I cracked something that they didn't. Like, they were like, wait a minute. Like, they called my lawyer back. They didn't even call me back direct. They called my lawyer back, like, tell him to calm down. We had a deal,
And he didn't put out an album in 4 years. And with his deal, he literally figured out how to get 20 million from Lucy and Grange, drop his deal, figure out how to make the funds apply to a whole other album, give him a bullshit album, get out his deal all in one round. Do you know how embarrassed the record industry was? Do you know how hard they've been whipping fucking artists since then? Like, this shit is some real slave shit. Like, you feel me? Like, that man figured out how to finesse the record industry, and people don't talk about that. That took that man 2 years to do that shit. And then Blonde, he already got a $20 million check from Apple from that shit, which he didn't have to give any of that shit back to the label because he was already out his deal once he gave them Endless. You get what I'm saying? Look, this. Exactly. Now, am I lying? Anybody check out if I'm lying.
Y'all not understanding what's going on. Let me fully explain this to you. I told y'all, $1 for the NFTs, right? I sold these shits to my fans for $1. People came, some people bought 20, some people bought 5, some people bought 60. It doesn't matter how much you bought. It was only $1. You spent $60, you bought 60. I need y'all to understand. One of those copies right now is going for 50,000, 60,000, 60,000.
Yeah.
These are sold. They're sold. Go look at the list right now and see how small the sellers list is getting. Y'all understand what the fuck is going on? Y'all understand I just cracked the fucking industry? Y'all understand I just cracked this shit? I just cracked this whole shit. It's cracked. It's over. I cracked the whole shit. It's over. It's over. No more middlemen. All y'all artists out there, fuck your label. Fuck the nigga that's telling you, yo, you gotta wait for this day on Spotify and on this. Fuck that. Nigga, it's over. Y'all gonna get paid, and your fans gonna get paid, and they gonna keep coming to you. Why? Because y'all making money together. This is Digital Trap House. Welcome, niggas. You're fucking welcome. We here.
Would you believe that I have a lab tech that worked in an all-women's hospital in the United States, who went to school for 4 years for parapsychology, so she does have an understanding of parasites and what she is looking for. The results that she was finding in these women coming in with UTIs, urinary tract infections, was showing parasitic larvae. She was putting them in her reports. And the doctor of the lab was removing them from the report.
Not letting these
So
motherfuckers
these
know.
women with urinary tract infections was never getting properly diagnosed in the United States.
One of that shit was so
So they're
funny.
not allowed to tell you if you have parasites. No, the CDC and HHS does not allow that. Because if you actually found out what ailed you and got cured, got the proper treatment, you wouldn't need your doctor. You wouldn't need your big pharma pills anymore. She will be part of the documentary to blow the whistle on what the truth is. Parasites are very common, and most people have them. Some of the symptoms of parasites that most people don't know is gastrointestinal issues. So we're going to say things like IBS or IBD, Crohn's disease, colitis, appendicitis, cholecystitis or gallstones, kidney stones, thyroid issues, hyper and hypo, diabetes, cancer, brain fog.
Sometimes there are secrets that need to be kept secret. But this particular issue is so important to you as citizens of this country, and as citizens of the human race, members of the human race, and citizens of this planet, that there's nothing more important than that, and I purposely and intentionally violate my oath with a good feeling, because I believe that not only do you people have a need to know, You have a right to know, because you're the ones that are paying the bills.
Tell them.
And I'm a believer in the constitutional system. I see the constitutional system being stomped upon. I see that document, which is so precious to us, being ignored. And the time has come for we, the people of this country, to reclaim our rights, reclaim our Constitution, and damn well force the government that we are supporting and paying the bills for to own up, fess up, and finally, after over 40 years, tell us the damn truth about this issue.
Let us know. You know what I mean?
I think I'm preaching to the choir here, and it's a good feeling. Thank you. It's also important that you understand who I am and where I came from and how I came to be here. I spent most of my adult life as a professional soldier. I spent 27 years on active duty in the United States Army. And for most of those years, I was in the infantry. I was in special operations, special assignments. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fact that I have been places I should not have been, and I have done things I should not have done. But I served my country loyally, and I still believe in my country, and I love my country, and I love the Constitution. And that's frankly the primary reason I'm here. When they published it in 1964, I said there was only 15 copies. One copy number one went to the Secretary General of NATO. Copy number 2 went to General Lyman Lemnitzer, who was the Supreme Allied Commander. Copy number 3 was assigned to the Shock Operations Center, and that's the one I got a chance to read over and over and over again. The other copies were distributed throughout the military headquarters to major military commanders from the various nations. There were copies in French and German and in English. But what was this document that stirred so much up there in shape in 1964?
Let us know.
Let me tell you basically what the major conclusions were. Number 1, and this is a real grabber.
Real grabber.
The planet Earth, and apparently the entire human race, is and has been the subject of an extensive, intensive, and massive survey and examination by several, remember, several, extraterrestrial high-technology civilizations. And this survey has been extremely thorough and detailed. That almost blows you out of your chair right there. Number 2, these civilizations have demonstrated not only high intelligence, but an extremely advanced technology that may possibly be hundreds, if not thousands of years beyond our own. Evidence collected and studied by this report indicates that there is apparently some kind of a process or a plan unfolding. They, whoever they are, continually demonstrate that the development of some kind of program is underway. And over the last 40 years, you can see this developing. You can see this process taking place. It's very clear for those of us who spent most of our lives looking at it. Evidence in this report leads to the conclusion that this survey or program has been going on for a very long time, possibly several thousand years. My personal view is it's been going on a lot longer than that, and I'll explain to you why I feel that. Military intelligence analysis have concluded there did not appear to be a major military threat involved. The conclusions seem to indicate that if they were either malevolent or hostile, that there was absolutely nothing that we could do at that time. And I have to tell you very honestly, there's absolutely nothing we can do at this time. Shape and NATO policy dictates that an ongoing study continues by the various military committees and that as many resources as possible by the major powers be committed to this matter. The entire subject is considered to be of the highest importance and extremely sensitive, and that this committee recommends that the highest level of classification be placed upon this matter, if approved by SECURE, to be above top secret, above cosmic top secret, which is what they did.
Stay woke. Money. Rothschild.
Religion. You saw some other reports that you.
Yeah, religious documents.
Pretty hard to swallow.
It's very hard to swallow.
Saying basically that. Basically, that we're a product of genetic engineering from someone.
Yeah.
This old
Yeah,
man,
how can you
it's like an old ass
Swallow that
video.
all. Well, you just swallow any of that stuff.
Well, it's easy to swallow things you can put your hands on, touch, and work with. That's no problem. But when you get into a lot of spiritual stuff and religion, and we were brought here, and we were made by progressive corrections and evolution and that sort of thing, and we're accused down a lot of the established religions, Catholicism, and everything. Said essentially you're. It's enough thing to accept. Why without hardcore proof, why even bring it up?
I guess the question more should deal with that you actually read a report that said this stuff.
Well, yeah, the only hardcore thing is that there is an extremely classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that fact. Period. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion?
Real though.
That's the only thing you can say.
What other kinds of questions?
No, that wasn't the last one.
I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say.
Oh, come on, that's so weird. That's a lot.
I'm not asking you to say what you
What you
believe
gotta
to be
say,
a fact.
man?
I'm asking you to say what you read in a report that is distributed at what may be the most top secret facility in the world. Okay.
All right, I'll say. It's so far out.
Your objection has been noted.
Okay.
What does it say?
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us.
It's
That we're nothing
containers.
but containers.
Containers of.
Containers.
It's a container, y'all.
You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the documents. That religion was specifically created, so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
The souls. Meaning,
Well, the souls or the bodies or whatever.
it seems like we're containers for souls that they're going to use in some other form.
Right.
And that they had something to do with different prophets and biblical figures.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Supposedly, Jesus and two other beings were genetically engineered. They were implanted in people on Earth in biblical times, and their births were closely monitored. Now, just some of the connections to that my wife had brought up were in the Bible. They said that the star had followed Mary wherever she went, and the UFO sightings always started out people, well, gee, that looks like a bright star. And well, in fact, they said in the Bible, the brightest star in the sky followed her where she went, and you just make little connections like that.
Okay.
I don't know what else to
All right. We were talking about how.
But you know what I noticed about the industry, bro? Anytime somebody expose them, they don't go get that person right away. You know what I'm saying? They wait years, you know what I'm saying? So when they do something to them, well, nobody suspect it was them. They talk about Crazy Bone for a minute, you feel me? So do y'all remember like 3 years ago when Crazy Bone had exposed the industry and he
I remember
basically
that
was talking
shit.
about how all these record labels, you know what I'm saying, invest in private prisons. So pretty much their main goal is to get us to go to prison. They're paying the artists to influence us to try to live like them. And that's why a lot of artists don't come out saying, oh, I went to school to get where I'm at now. You feel me? All these artists act like they came from the streets. That's why a lot of these old school artists from back in the day, that's why I listen to a lot of old school music. Because a lot of these old school artists, they went with it. And that's why they barely drop music now. They're only giving big deals to artists that's agreeing to destroy the black community. Think about all these new artists and what they promoting. At this meeting that Crazy Bone was talking about, guess what? There wasn't no country artists there, and that's why I say the black community. You feel me? They know exactly what they doing. Watch this video though.
Music business has invested millions of dollars in the private prison system. Somebody sent me an article, like, I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
But it's actually a letter that was written by somebody that was a decision maker at a major label. You know, he was invited to a very special meeting about the future of hip hop back in 1991. And the title of the letter is The Secret Meeting That Changed Rap Music and Destroyed a Generation. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us on the
Look, that black man.
So I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Okay.
The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were there, most of them familiar faces. Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting, and consequences were stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who received funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. My industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic. Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague who opened up the meeting earlier hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out. I remember word for word the last thing he said. "It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement." He then closed the door behind him.
That's crazy.
The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
Anything that was harmless, fun rap, anything that had a message in it, had to go. It's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it. But they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yes.
They're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison.
Draconians are here now. Where there are 1,833 of them.
1,833 what?
100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here. Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans? Yes. And they won't eat a dead human, it has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children.
If this is truly the case, it would explain where a good portion of the missing children go and how so many children vanish each year without a cause.
And we've been told, people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, bull. Why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? Why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do it?
What the news is?
Come up out of this from underground.
Why they ain't dropped this?
Everywhere, they're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and giving them to the Greys and in turn giving them to the Alpha Draconians?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there.
Want to understand the corruption of the United States government and central bankers of today, then you must understand their corruption from the past. In 1864, President Abraham Lincoln recognized the dangers of bankers. He warned that the money power preys upon the nation and predicted an impending crisis. Tragically, and maybe even coincidentally, Lincoln was assassinated shortly after. Following his death from 1864 to 1913, most American banks were forced to become nationalized and started to print money due to the National Banking Act and the impact of the Civil War. In 1873, an international banking cartel orchestrated a financial panic, manipulating public opinion to push for the establishment of the Federal Reserve. President James A. Garfield, who was in office during 1881, was also against the banking establishment, criticized their control over the money supply, recognizing that it granted them absolute power. Sadly, Garfield was assassinated just months into his presidency. President William McKinley, a big supporter of the gold standard, was also assassinated. In 1913, the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal or a reserve, is a network of privately owned banks established as a central bank, supposedly serving the interests of the American people.
Just prior to the initiation of World War III, let me read his direct quote. They will attack things like oil refineries. They will have train crashes in random spots carrying toxic chemicals. They will create massive forest fires that seem seemingly disconnected or related to human error or human interaction. They will have unrelated outbreaks of deadly diseases, sound familiar, to overrun our critical infrastructure. They will break down our communications by having attacks on our electrical power grids with small arms fires by Spetsnaz, and they will create psychological warfare throughout the country by creating scandal after scandal after scandal about our elected officials to create widespread distrust, so no matter what the government says, the American people will not react to it. I'll keep going.
Times we live in.
They said as a part of this great year, or just prior, in the months prior to World War III, they will create food facility fires, train derailments, power substation sabotage, cyber attacks on key infrastructure. Dole Foods is under cyber attack right now. They totally shut down today.
Dole Foods.
They will have cyber attacks on our communications and on our banking infrastructure. The political scandals and the erosion of international support for the U.S. due to the incompetencies of our deep-seated corruption and scandal, and they will put into power a completely ineffective executive branch. And
that's all being done right now.
All done. It's done. They're doing it. So that's why I say there is an inevitability. So everybody can understand why the fires, why East Palestine, Ohio, why the wildfires, why the substations, why the random attacks, why the immigration, the immigration crisis in both Europe and the United States. Why? You have to understand this. They said before the missiles fly, this is Suvorov, I'm paraphrasing Suvorov, and the Great Terror and the Overture as a component of the Perestroika deception is that they will infiltrate U.S. political system and gain compromise from within at every level. They will create national distrust of all governmental institutions. They will create distrust of the authentic election process. They will implement a continual flow of governmental scandals. They will put into power a weakened executive branch. Remember, I'm saying this is before the missiles fly. What's the nature of a deception? You don't know that you're deceived. The whole purpose of a deception is you can never come to the empirical, objective rationalization that you are deceived. Hence, a deception, no matter what.
Are you starting to get it yet?
Facts.
Did y'all see this video? These forklifts are trying to lift up this one piece of stone. I mean, trying to lift this one block up. Stay with me here. I promise you, I'm going somewhere with this. I seen this video online, and I thought about something. I mean, look at this. They are having issues just lifting it up off of the ground, let alone moving it to another location to stack it like Legos. Look at this. I mean, I'm not sure if this is 100% real, but that's a bulldozer and that is a dump truck. And imagine trying to build the pyramids with this technology.
Real.
These statues or monoliths on Easter Island has been known to weigh over 200 metric tons, which is approximately over 400,000 pounds. And they are supposed to be building bricks like this and stacking them like Legos with horses and buggies and old wooden technology and metal technology that they used from things lying around. Okay, yes, I'm being funny, but let's be real here. Look at the size of these bricks, of these pieces of granite. And yet, let's take another look at this video once again. There are 3, maybe even 4 forklifts trying to lift up one single block. There ain't enough slaves on this planet to pick this granite up, move it 100 miles, and stack it real neat, and do that over and over until you build a pyramid, until you build a monolith.
Without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into this video.
This video right here is about no soul, people not having souls. Now, there's 2 aspects to this. Some people are actually not humanoids or melanated light beings, and they don't exist past this dimension, so they don't come to this dimension or realm with a soul. So, for example, Caucasians, 85% of Caucasians are born with calcified pineal glands. The pineal gland is an organ which allows the head of the soul to take a seat in the vehicle, which is the body. By them not having calcified pineal glands, their bodies cannot inhabit a soul. So that is one aspect of a person not having a soul or an entity not having a vehicle that inhabits a soul, so they just walk around like zombies on the physical realm. But the aspect I'm using is how people, specifically melanated beings, can come into existence with a soul and end up without one. Now the point is, the point I'm about to make here is environment. The definition of an environment is the circumstances which influence a living organism. Now, before I go on, I have to give you a perspective. We understand that we are not these bodies. We are the souls that inhabit these bodies. So you have to stop looking at the construct as you're a body with a soul. No, you're a soul with a body. So with that being said, you are the controller of the physical realm. Now what happens is, when the physical realm becomes overwhelming with negative phenomena, the soul can no longer want to take place in that experience and eject. Now an example I'm going to give you of this is, you have people who go through such life traumatic situations that they actually disconnect from themselves. Now before I break that down, I'm going to give you the connection. The emotional body is the middle, it's the medium. So the emotional body connects your physical body to your spiritual body. So now when you look at most people who do sick, twisted things, they all have one thing in common. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. They don't have an emotional body. Why? Because their soul is disconnected. So they can't feel nothing. So now, before I go on to my point, the Caucasian teaches you that through his patrilineal system or his masculated egotistical system that men don't be emotional. Men don't cry. Don't hold your girl hand in public. Don't do anything that will invoke love and emotion. Why? Because that keeps the spirit out the body. Because if you're not emotionally present and you don't know that the emotion is like a meter to let you know that your soul is here, then you won't know. You won't never try to get yourself present in this realm because you've been disconnected. Now, I'm not saying go outside and act like a female or be homosexual. It's everything that's balance. But what I'm saying is there's a certain level of emotional stability that everybody should retain because that lets you know how present you are here in this body. Now, going back to my point, let's say a little girl or a little boy has been molested or touched when they was kids or their whole life. We go